Welcome back to the iCoach podcast. This is your host, Marvin Nash. Very special guest on this week's edition of the iCoach podcast. Coach John Mosley joins us from Netflix's Last Chance U. One thing that I got from him more than anything else is that it's not about X's and O's. And I think that's one reason why he may have agreed to do this show with me, is because I'm not talking about basketball X's and O's. We're talking about the heart of coaching. And we had a brief segment, not to spoil too much of it for you, where he talked about what he looks for when hiring assistant coaches. And you either have it or you don't. You either love kids or you love ball more than you love kids. You either love kids or you love your content area more than you love kids. And it's not an easy job, because being a coach isn't just about coaching the X's and O's. Just like being a teacher isn't just what you can teach in the classroom. Many days we're counselors, we are confidants, we are confidence builders. We are the ones that they look to when times get hard, because they spend the most time with us. They spend 8 hours a day with their teachers or with their coaches. And we have a responsibility to be our best every single day. So I really appreciate Coach Mosley taking the time to talk with me. And he dropped some gems. I hope that you guys listen, and I hope that you learn just like I learned from just even doing the interview. The iCoach podcast. Thank you, guys. Welcome back to the iCoach podcast. I'm your host, Marvin Nash. I'm joined by East Los Angeles County's the head basketball coach, John Mosley. I'm a little starstruck right now because I'm a big fan of this man and what he's done and the way he leads teams. Coach Mosley, thank you for joining me.
Man, thanks for having me. I've been busy, just had a little time. The pandemic has kind of got us, stuck a little bit, still here in, pandemic mode. And so we still got some free time. So I've been hopping on and chatting with those who, got some free time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, it's been a couple times,
Absolutely. Well, I know this, watching the show, I was just kind of alluding to this earlier. I watched the whole thing. I binged it in one evening, just because I was just impressed by the passion in which you coach. Can you tell me, Coach, where does that passion stem from?
You know what? I don't know, man. I like to see people successful. And then there's a chip on my shoulder. There's a kind of a chip. I don't know. I've had this enthusiasm, this energy. I was young, man. I was always maybe the class clown. And I think that goes for a lot of our guys. We got these passions, enthusiasms. We have, they call us the bad kid, or the terrible twos. I was that guy that was running around crazy when I was young and couldn't hold me down. I was the one that was in church in the back that couldn't keep quiet, and mom had to come, snatch me out of church. I was I was sent to the principal's office. I was that guy. So being that guy, just like whenever we direct, if we can direct that energy into the right space, then it can be used for good. And I just found a space where I can use all that energy and fire and passion. And, I'm competitive. I got a chip on my shoulder. I always got a sense to prove something. And then, ultimately, when it's even directed towards faith, when it's directed towards God, that passion, that fire to lead, men or anybody, and to try to plant seeds, because it seeds in people's lives, important in people's lives. So it's kind of like everything I do now, I get high energy, enthusiastic, I get excited. So I guess that's where I've kind of always been that way. I can be laid back too, man. I can shut up and be quiet, but when you start telling me to talk, it's over.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. One thing I do, I noticed from the show, and I can already feel the energy here, is that, you're a very positive person. You lead with positivity. I know we've all been through trials. We've all been through these different tribulations. How do you maintain a positive mindset, especially in times like now where COVID hits and you're shut down when at some point, sometime you get back going? Like, how do you stay positive within that?
Well, everybody asks me my favorite scripture, and I say all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and called according to his purpose. So it looks bleak. I get discouraged just like everybody else. Right now, I'm having a tough time with how I feel like leadership is kind of directing this whole thing, because it's affecting all of us. It's affecting, for what reason? Who knows? It could be politics. It could be whatever. But I just know that God has his perfect plan and in place. And so I always lean back and rest it on that. But, I will say, man, I'm human, man. I get down, but what I do is I go to my source and I go to that strength. And then that's when I realize, okay, it's going to be all right. So in the midst of this, why am I going to, pour more salt on the wound? Why don't I start moving towards the right direction and just be kind of excited about what God is going to do? Because I've seen him do it before. I've seen out of the blue, great. It turns out great. You've seen it. We can start off poor in the season and then end up great. And so I've seen some great things. And so I'd rather take that approach than start pouring negative energy into something that we got to, maybe pour positive energy into.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And Coach, leading up to that, I've seen the way, again, how you coach. And I've always had this mindset. So I saw some similarities when I was watching the show. Your best players, you coach them a little bit harder than the others, or you coach them probably the hardest. Why is that? Why do you expect the best from your best players?
You know what? You calling them on leadership to be leaders. You calling them. You see a level of greatness. You see some things. There's diamonds inside. I'll talk about the diamond that's inside of some diamonds can shine brighter if we could just chip away and get all of the surrounding the crap that is kind of preventing that diamond from shining. Ultimately they're going to share a bigger responsibility in most cases on the team. They didn't get a chance to highlight, but there's 15 guys. They all had some of the same issues, and we had to come out at them. But I think even when you have your best players and you can coach them hard, that in itself, if those guys can fall in line, if those guys can be disciplined and coach, then they see that, and it gives you the go ahead to coach them as well. So that's part of it too, man. If you have the ability, I had a friend when he was in Cleveland, he coached with the Cavaliers when LeBron was on the team at Cleveland, and he just said the reason why LeBron's teams win, and that was back then, I don't know now, with all the branding and everybody's trying to brand themselves. They run in the NBA, the players are running the NBA, but I know back then when in the early stages, they say LeBron's he allows you to coach him, and everybody sees the star player being coached and responding to being coached, and everybody follows suit. And if you can coach those guys and get them in a space where they have proper leadership and setting examples, you attack those guys and mold them first, and everybody will follow along. So I think that's a key part of having success as a team, because the answer everybody says is because I see so much in them, I want their potential to come out. Yeah, that's true. But if I can coach those guys, then everybody else, will fall right in line and follow that leadership.
Now, watching the show, I can see the different camera angles, how intense the stories seem. But as a coach, how difficult was it just to coach when you have people everywhere, like 24/7? How difficult was that for you?
Initially, it wasn't. Initially, it was because I'm worried about what I was going to say. If I was going to say anything wrong, and then eventually, I just said, you know what, man, it became normal and it was okay. And the Last Chance U team and Netflix team, man, they did a great job of, with the content that they got. They told me, hey, it's going to be a mirror of what you are. I didn't know if I wanted to see a mirror of myself, but the content, they did a phenomenal job of putting that together. And I think it share more. They take more of what you are, and then they highlight that. There were some things that I may not have liked, and I was looking as it came on. I'm thinking like, man, I hope they don't show that, and they didn't. But I think it highlights more of who you are and more about what we're about and what you're about. And so I think they took that content, the majority of that content. And so I had some concerns, but it ended up working out. I had some concerns, but after a while, man, it wasn't a big deal. I mean, everybody's on social media all day long, right? I mean, kids are filming themselves. We're in this world where we want these media likes. We want all these likes, and we want people to follow us so we can be seen on our own media platform, right? Our own camera platform. And I think that's the majority that's how we live. So I think we're used to cameras. And myself, the way I thought to live out my life, I try to wear my faith on my sleeve. I try to live out that life. And I feel like I've had a camera on me ever since I became a believer. I need to make sure that I live out a life and watch how I live. So I think times have changed, man. We're used to cameras being on us. Now, the actual physical camera was a little weird, but then after that, you're like, hey, it's no big deal. It is, the cameras nowadays, you got these cameras, they capture, what changed as well, where you don't film as well, is the actual cameras now, they don't, back in the day, that's on you. So it wasn't like that type of filming where you got all these lights and your eyes are squinting every time. When you did the sit down interviews, yeah, you had the lights on you. That was a little different. But when you didn't have the lights on you, the cameras are just running around like a regular camcorder,
Now, I think this is a good segue for us, Coach, because you alluded to, since you became a believer, feeling like you had that camera on you. I saw you speak life many times to these kids on the show. You're speaking your faith and your journey. Can you kind of just briefly go into how your own personal Christian journey has poured into your coaching career and how you've used that as a platform to be a ministry?
Yeah, I think, man, when you really know, you really build, and I challenge everybody to dig deeper and grow. When you really know and understand who God is, I mean, you just don't want them. You understand what the purpose is. It's to our lives to be lived out for Him. It's hard to get to that point because of how our society is. It's about self-pleasing and self-satisfaction and fulfilling our needs and our wants. But the more you know God, the more you know that we need to, humble ourselves and our purpose is to glorify Him. Our purpose is for His pleasure. It's not for our pleasure. It's not to just live out and do me. I see this all the time, living my best life, we should be living out our lives for Christ. And of course, it will be the best life if we do that, if we live our life out there commissioned to go and win souls. And I just think I got to that place of conviction, by digging into the Word and really seeing who He is and growing closer to Him. When we get to that point, man, I get to a place of reverence and humility where I was like, man, I'm so sorry. I thought it was about me the whole time, and Lord, it's about you. And so I think I walk in the doors of the sin in me can show up, the selfishness or whatever can show up, but I'll walk through the door of anywhere I go and realize, you know what, okay, the first purpose is to glorify God. And if that's leading men to Christ, if that's walking this line, and sometimes it's just living it out. Sometimes it's that, like you said, not cursing. I didn't think it was a big deal because I just don't curse. And then everybody's like, how's he coaching without cursing? Like, man, that's great. And I'm just like, well, that's what I do. But that in itself was a ministry. Some people were like, well, yeah, I don't curse either. Well, for some, they thought, being a coach and not cursing was a testament to my faith. And I'm like, wow, well, that's, Lord, use me. I don't want God to look bad. I mean, the worst thing is to say you're a person of faith, like we see, man, and there's been reality shows and different things like that come on and people say, hey, I'm a person of faith. And then all of a sudden, I thought you were someone of faith. Or like, what is this? What is happening? What's going on with this scandal that's in the media? Like, what's up? Not that I can't fall into sin either or temptation, but, I always thought that made God look bad. And, yeah, I may do something tomorrow that dishonors God. But right now in this moment, I'm like, man, I just can't make God look bad, man. We got to make God be glorified because it's me, it's us, it's you. We turn people away. We turn people away when we don't look right. And I just don't want to do that. I don't want to turn people away. It's just, yeah. So, I mean, I think I live with that burden, man, of making sure I'm not turning anybody away from God. And I don't force it down your throat. I'm not force feeding. I'm not shoving the word of God or anything like that. But I'm here. I'm available if you need to hear where my strength comes from. You need to hear that? Let me tell you where it is. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you what can help you figure it out. Okay, fine. I'm going to just drop some seeds and nuggets. I don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable, but I'm going to plant seeds. But nobody's going to feel uncomfortable because I wear my faith. But if I see there's a moment where we need to where we need to mention and we need to dig in and share what level of peace that you should acquire or could use. I could share with you where you could get peace and joy, and I could share with you where you could get comfort and healing and all that from my convictions on.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Now, Coach, I know in a particular episode, you spoke about the importance of your family and why you stepped away from the Division I job and came down to the JUCO level just to spend that time with your family. There's a lot of coaches, myself included, had a ton of opportunities, but it would pull me away from my kids. It would pull me away from being that father that they need to be. What advice can you give to coaches who are faced with that type of choice, and they understand that the family is the most important thing to them?
Yeah, for me, I think that's my first responsibility. You know, sometimes self gets in the way, man. And I know I was a Division I coach a little bit, and so you got those perks, man, and you got we going out there, we striving and seeking our own success, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if it gets in the way, then I challenge us if it can get in the way. And there's guys that do a great job at it, man. They're at the high major level and they're winning games and they're great family people. For me, I just felt that we know when we're at those levels, man, you know what happens. You got to win. And if you don't win, then you don't eat. So I can see myself focusing and putting all in on trying to win to make sure I keep that paycheck. And I don't for a good job at it. So I think I'm suited best where I can be in a place where I can spend time with my family and I can make sure I stay vested, because I'm convicted that this is my first responsibility, not just to be here, not just to be at home, but to make sure that as a believer, as a Christian, man, I'm sanctifying my home and making sure my kids are fed, not only within their bellies, not only are they educated, not only am I spending time and helping them develop their extracurricular, their career to feed them spiritually. And I don't want anything to get in the way of that. And right now, that's my conviction. Now, I don't want to say never, because you just don't know what God wants to do in my life. He may close the door and say, "Hey, I want you here," but I won't jump. In the last month or so, I've had a couple opportunities, and I didn't jump at them. And I just kind of said, it just didn't feel like which I feel like my purpose now. I got a tenured faculty position, so I'm a little more comfortable in terms of financially. Like if I want to retire here, it's a good system to retire in. So I at least have that comfort level where I can be a little more picky about the decisions that I make. But I would just say, man, if you can't, in my opinion, man, if you can't be that leader, man, well, I'm taking care of the family. This is the way I take care of the family. I got to go out there and I'm gonna be gone weeks at a time. And we just say, as a matter of fact, like, that's just what I got to do to take care of my family. Well, know that your family's going to suffer if that's the choice that you make. So, and if that's how we want to justify being away from our families, if that's how we want to justify it, then we know that our families are going to have that they're going to take a hit. And some families can get through it, but some families don't. And you're running the risk of taking a hit to your family. You're running the risk. I don't want to be that guy that, I'm out there mentoring and coaching, and all of these guys that I'm mentoring and coaching and spending time with, they're all graduating, getting their degrees, they're doing all these things. But then when I come home, my son is out in the streets, or my daughter doesn't feel it. She's got to go grab love from somebody else because daddy's not there to love her. So I got a burden to make sure I'm here for that. I don't want my son, and I don't want my wife to feel neglected and to shut down and to not be the mother that she can be because she feels neglected and her disposition, her style changes. I just don't. I don't want to come home to that. I don't want to come home to where my son is. He didn't turn into the black sheep because daddy is spending more time with other young men, than him. And my daughters, I want them to always feel loved. So that if whatever direction, that's fine. It doesn't mean that my kids are going to turn out great. It just means that hopefully I'm not the reason that things don't work out.
That's big advice right there, because that is our first responsibility, and we always have to keep that in the forefront when we're chasing, what we view as success, what we view as a title. I guess that leads to the next question I have for you, Coach. Being where you are now, can you tell me the importance of having just great assistant coaches and what makes them want to work hard for you?
You know what? Working hard for me is not the issue. They were going to work hard regardless of what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
But man, it's so important that you have that loyalty, and the ones who can share loyalty, meaning they share the same vision, they share the same passion, and they share all that without trying to step over you. And I can't, and they understand leadership and serving. They're leaders. I view them, they're on the same level. I just get to have the loudest voice in the room. But in terms of knowledge and all that, man, they have that same. I get the privilege to have the loudest voice, but I also, there's also a burden to having the loudest voice, because when all said and done, your voice has to be the one that makes the ultimate decision, and it could go either way. But so important, or beyond the value. I was an assistant coach for years, up until I was a head coach here at East LA College, and you have to pour into your leadership, and they poured into me. And when I was an assistant coach, I would pour into my leadership. I would pour into that, and it's hard because you have a vision, but you got to fight the urge, and you understand that let's focus on this successful, and that better prepares. And because I was an assistant coach, I understand how it feels to be an assistant coach, and you always remember it's like never, really demeaning, and trying to keep that camaraderie between the coaches to where there's no animosity or anything like that, because that runs rampant, man, with in a coaching staff, man. And I hear those nightmares all the time, and I just do not want that, man. So I want to make sure that my assistant coaches feel like they're me and number one. A lot of times we can demean our coaches, and we can make them feel like they're a little less. And I never want anybody, not just assistant coaches, but anybody working for me. I mean, anybody that I have leadership over, heck, my family. I don't want to feel like I'm stepping all over them and dominating them. Anyone I have leadership over, I want it to be a partnership. And so I want to welcome that partnership in the space and offer that up. I do have a vision, and I'll share it in line with, but the ones that fall in line with it, man, it's just great. And what I do for all those who are looking for assistant coaches, and you say, well, how do you pick them, and how do you find guys like that? What I do, man, I have the ability to just say, hey, and a lot of people don't. They have to interview, and they go by an interview, right? And go by what someone says. I get the opportunity, like I'll tell guys, hey, come in the summer and just hang out and just watch and just look and see. And, a lot of guys walk through the door and they don't, this is a grind. This is not fun. It's kind of not fun. It's not as fun as it looks. But the ones who come in and they have fun with the grind, like they enjoy the grind, or the grind is normal to them, it's like, man, that's who I want, because this is like normal. Like you're smiling through the grind, those are the ones I want. Like, okay, he gets it. Like, what I'm saying? They get it. But then there's, you got guys that walk through the door and this is not coaching. This is mentorship. This is love. This is fellowship. It's everything but coaching. And I want to see if guys walk through the door and understand that you can't walk through the door and start coaching kids. You got to walk through the door and start loving kids, And when I see guys like Coach Hunter, they walk through the door and start loving them. You see, he started loving them when I see him out on the streets recruiting. When Coach Rob walked through the door and started loving people versus start coaching them, then I'm like, he gets it about. When he started walking through the door and start coaching, now it's kind of about you. You want to show what you know, and you want to teach him something instead of loving him, man. That kid ain't listening to you until you love him first, That's what I say, rules without relationship equals rebellion. So you're not going to walk through the door at all and coach anybody unless you love on them. And so when I see coaches like that, then that's when I kind of pursue them more like, hey, man, yeah, I think this is great. Here, come on in and be a part of this. And it actually it organically works out most of the time. You know, I'll get guys, they come in and they say, hey, yeah, coach, I don't think I'm going to have the time to do this. And then there's other guys. I'm like, you sure you could? I'm like, man, this guy is great. You sure? He's like, yeah, man, coach. I see what you're doing, coach. Yeah, I want to be a part. Let's go. And that's how it was with Coach Rob and Coach Ken.
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head there, man. Rules without relationship equals rebellion, because nobody's gonna play hard for, listen to, even acknowledge somebody they don't like. If you don't have a relationship with them, you can forget about it. So I'm with you, Coach. A lot of people have asked me what I do for a living, and I say I'm in personal relations. And what is that? I coach, man. That's what I do. Yes, sir. Now, Coach, this is the last question I'm gonna ask for you. I really appreciate your time, by the way. But this is for me. I started this podcast because I was a kid with a speech impediment who grew up. I had a sick mother. And so I kind of raised myself at the age of 17 on. I somehow made it to college. I say somehow, it was because of coaches. They helped me get to college. And then my college coaches helped me move on from there and find a career that I wanted to do. And so this is like more of to pay them back, to show homage to that. And so I try to reach out to the coaches who teach and love with passion. I'm not a big X's and O's guy, and I don't care to talk to a bunch of big X's and O's guys. I care to talk to those who build relationships. So, Coach, can you tell me, just in a few words, why do you coach?
Well, I think I love that. So what happened is when I went on a mission trip and I did the clinics. And by the way, I was telling people I went on that mission trip to try to play pro ball over in Brazil, but I went over there, and then when I came back, my coach that I played for, my college coach, I told him I had one class to finish. He said, "Come on here and I'll pay for it and just help me coach," kind of like a grad assistant. Really wasn't a grad assistant because I didn't graduate yet. I needed that one class, but I helped him coach, and I found that I missed. It was like I wasn't finished competition wise, and I missed that locker room environment. I was a natural leader in the sense that I was always the one to help keep that locker room together. I was the point guard. I was passing. I grew up in the Magic Johnson era, people to ball and have this positive Magic Johnson vibe, energy, showtime. And so I realized I missed that. And then when I saw my mentor, he actually passed last January, and I believe it was because of COVID. He was on the respirator, but we didn't know at the time. But when I saw it from the other side, when I saw why he did certain things, when I saw it from psychologically, how he really impacted all of our lives. And he was a believer, he was a Christian, how he lived out his faith. And we were, it was back team environment. And I realized, I would recruit people, players, and here I am, I'm in my early 20s, but I can relate. And I'm not only am I helping them get through these college years, but I'm actually ministering to them as well. And I'm just like, man, this is a combination of what's driving me. This is a combination that's got me passionate. And so I was doing it, and he said, okay, let me came about. But if you talk about here at the community college, when I started out, man, it was 15 grand, as a stipend. And I said, let me make this stop here so I can get this head coaching experience for a year or two. But then, man, I saw this driving force, that I saw a bunch of these lost individuals who was looking for, that's why the show is appropriate. Last Chance U. I saw a bunch of young men that looked like me, and they had all these different stories, and they were trying to get on the right track. I'm looking for this hope to get a scholarship. I'm looking for this second chance. I'm looking for all this stuff. And I see that, and then all of a sudden I'm just like, man, it became a joy, and there's a satisfaction to see guys move on and have success. And so I've been more driven about that. And like you said, man, the X's and O's, man, I don't even know if I can coach. There's just this level of discernment that I'm around when I'm around these young men to drive them towards success, right? And so part of Jump Stop, so we can get you the scholarship, and motivating them to do a jump stop and motivating them to change their responses in life, change their habits, and change how they respond to adversity is what got me through, and coaches that got me through. And I was fortunate enough. I did have mom and dad, and so some of those principles, but I stepped outside the door, and it was South Central, and I had all those elements that was pulling me away from where I needed to be. But there's all those guys, they kind of steered me back, and fortunately, we had that place. And so I just try to be that same vessel, man, that all those people that spoke into my life, that pointed me in the right direction. Because I could have went either way, man. I could have been in the opposite direction as well, But now it's kind of like I'm burdened with the sense that I just see me and all these dudes. I see the discouragement in their eyes, and I remember having that look, and I was like, spiral out of this, man. Or I see the poor response, and I'm like, now I see the lack of confidence, or I see this and that. And so how can we strategically get them all on track so that they can move forward? They all got a diamond inside. And so I think that's what continues to drive me, man, and coaching.
Yes, sir. Absolutely, man. That spoke to me. I can't remember where I heard it, but it's kind of been my mantra forever. And it's be who you needed when you were younger. And I wake up every morning and say that affirmation to myself before I go to work. And some days are harder than others, as you know. Some days can be a little bit tougher than others, but you still attack each day, being what you needed to get you to where you were. Because like you just said, there's a diamond in every single one of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, Coach Mosley, I appreciate the time. You dropped some gems on us, and really, you're showing the heart of a coach, and that's what this whole show highlights, man. So thank you very much for joining us.
Absolutely, man. Well, it's a lot of people. There's a lot of coaches out there doing the same thing. I was just fortunate enough to represent all the coaches who are doing it the right way, or trying to do it the right way. I'm not going to say everything I'm doing is right, but I was fortunate enough to represent and they cut it and made it look good for all the coaches who are out there doing things, or trying to do things the right way.
Yes, sir. And I like the kids say, man, real recognizes real. So we appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Sir. Well, thank you, Coach Mosley. You have a good evening. We'll connect soon.
Okay. All right, Coach.